Hare Krishna. Welcome everyone to our weekly Sunday Krishna book reading to Srila Prabhupada here in his sacred darshan room in Vrindavan. We welcome everyone online, and as always, before we begin, we offer our humble obeisances to Srila Prabhupada and to each other. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharane Nirvasesha Sunyavadi Paskacha Deshatarane, and to each other Panchakalpatrubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So please join us, get your Krishna book, and we're in chapter 52, Krsna, the Rancher. And for those of you online, we have the subtitles now to make it easier for you, so you can read on the bottom the subtitles. When Muchakunda, the celebrated descendant of the Ikshvaku dynasty, was favored by Lord Krishna, he circumambulated the Lord within the cave and then came out. On coming out of the cave, Muchakunda saw that the human species had surprisingly been reduced in stature to pygmy size. Similarly, the trees had also been far reduced in size, and Muchakunda could immediately understand that the current age was Kali Yuga. Therefore, without diverting his attention, he began to travel north. Eventually, he reached the mountain known as Gandhamadan, where there were many trees, such as sandalwood and other flowering trees, whose fragrance made anyone who reached them joyful. He decided to remain in the Gandhamadan mountain. I think I'm saying that wrong. Gandhamadana, yes. Gandhamadana, sorry, Srila Prabhupada. Gandhamadana mountain region to execute austerities and penances for the rest of his life. It appears that this place is situated in the northernmost part of the Himalayan mountains, where the abode of Narayan is situated. This place is still existing and is called Bhadragashram. In Bhadragashram, he engaged himself in the worship of Lord Krishna, tolerating all kinds of pains and pleasures and the other dualities of this material world. Lord Krishna returned to the vicinity of Mathura, where he fought with the soldiers of Kalyavana and killed them one after another. After this, he collected all the booty from the dead bodies, and under his direction, it was loaded on bullock carts and brought back to Dwarka.
Meanwhile, Jarasandha again attacked Mathura, this time with bigger divisions of soldiers, numbering 23 Akshahinis. Lord Sri Krishna wanted to save Mathura from the 18th attack of the great military divisions of King Jarasandha. To prevent further killing of soldiers and to attend to other important business, Lord Krishna left the battlefield without fighting. Actually, he was not at all afraid, but he pretended to be an ordinary human being, frightened by the immense quantity of soldiers and resources of Jarasandha. Without any weapons, Krishna left the battlefield. Although his lotus feet were as soft as the petals of a lotus flower, he proceeded for a very long distance on foot.
This time, Jarasandha thought that Krishna and Balram were very much afraid of his military strength and were feeling the battlefield. He followed them with all his chariots, horses, and infantry. He thought Krishna and Balram to be the ordinary human being, and he was trying to measure the activities of Lord Due to this pastime, Krishna is known as Ranchor, which means one who has left the battlefield. In India, especially in Gujarat, there are many temples of Krishna known as the temple of Ranchor. Ordinarily, if a king leaves the battlefield without fighting, he is called a coward. But when Krishna enacts this pastime, leaving the battlefield without fighting, he is worshipped by the devotees. A demon always tries to measure the opulence of Krishna, whereas a devotee never tries to measure the strength and opulences, but always surrender unto him and worship him by following in the footstep of a pure devotee. We can know that Krishna, the Ranchor, left the battlefield not because he was afraid, but because he had some other purpose. The purpose, as it will be revealed, was to attend to the confidential letter sent by Rukmani, his future first wife. Krishna leave the battlefield in display of one of his 6 opulences. Krishna is the supreme powerful, the supreme beautiful. Similarly, he is the supreme renouncer. Srimad Bhagavatam clearly states that he left the battlefield in spite of having ample military strength. Even without his military, he alone would have been sufficient to defeat the army of Jarasandha, as he had done 17 times before. Therefore, his leaving the battlefield is an example of his supermost opulence's renunciation.
After traversing a very long distance, the brothers pretended to become tired. To mitigate their weariness, they climbed up a mountain many miles above sea level. This mountain was called Pravarsana due to constant rain, for the peak was always covered with clouds sent by Indra. Jarasandha took it for granted that the 2 brothers were afraid of his military power and had hidden themselves at the top of the mountain. For he tried to find them, searching for a long time. But when he failed, he decided to trap and kill them by setting fires around the peak. He therefore surrounded the peak with firewood and set ablaze. As the fire spread more and more, Krishna and Balarama jumped from the top of the mountain down to the ground, a distance of 88 miles. Thus, while the peak was burning up, Krishna and Balarama escaped, unseen by Jarasandha or his men. Jarasandha concluded that the 2 brothers had burned to ashes and that there was no need of further fighting. Thinking himself successful in his efforts, he left the city of Mathura and returned to his home in the kingdom of Magadha. Gradually, Krishna and Balarama reached the city of Dwaraka, which was surrounded by the sea.
Following this, Sri Balarama married Revati, daughter of King Revata, ruler of Anartha province. This is explained in the 9th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. After the marriage of Baladev, Krishna married Rukmini. Rukmini was the daughter of King Bhishmaka, ruler of the province known as Vidarbha. Just as Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead, Vasudeva Rukmini is the supreme goddess of Just as Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead Vasudeva, Rukmini is the supreme goddess of fortune, Mahalakshmi. According to the authority of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, the expansion of Krishna and that of Srimati Radharani are simultaneous. Krishna expands himself into various Vishnu Tattva forms, and Srimati Radharani expands herself into various Sri Shakti Tattva forms by her internal potency as multiforms of the goddess of fortune.
According to Vedic convention, there are 8 kinds of marriage. In the first class marriage system, the parents of the bride and bridegroom arrange the marriage date. Then, in royal style, the bridegroom goes to the house of the bride and in the presence of brahmanas, priests and relatives, the bride is given in charity to the bridegroom. Besides this, there are other systems such as the Gandharva and Rakshasa marriages. Krishna married Rukmini according to the Rakshasa system, kidnapping her in the presence of his many rivals like Shishupal, Jarasandh and Shalva. While Rukmini was being given in charity to Shishupal, Krishna snatched her from the marriage arena exactly as Garuda snatched the pot of nectar from the demigods. Rukmini, the only daughter of King Bhishmak, was exquisitely beautiful. She was known as Ruchiranana, which means one who has a beautiful face expanded like a lotus flower.
Devotees of Krishna are always eager to hear about the transcendental activities of the Lord. His activity of fighting, transcendental activities of the Lord. His activities of fighting, kidnapping, and running away from the battlefield are all transcendental, beginning from the absolute platform. And the devotees they are transcendental interesting here of them. The pure devotees does not make the distinction that some activities of the Lord should be heard and others avoid. There is, however, a class of the so-called devotees known as Prakriti Asahashiyas, who are very much interested in hearing about Krishna is the Rasa Lila with the gopis, but not about his fighting with his enemies. They do know that his bellicose activities and his friendly activities with the gopis are equally transcendental, begin on the absolute platform. All the transcendental pastimes of the Krishna described in the Srimad Bhagavatam are relished with poor devotee, drop submissive oral reception. They do not reject even a drop.
The story of Krishna's marriage with Rukmini is described as follows. The king of Vidarbha, Maharaj Bhishmak, was very qualified and devoted. He had 5 sons and only 1 daughter. The first son was known as Rukmi, the second Rukmartha, the third Rukmabahu, the fourth Rukmakesha, and the fifth Rukmamali. The brothers had one young sister, Rukmini. She was beautiful and chaste and was meant to be married to Lord Krishna. Many saintly persons and sages like Narad Muni used to visit the palace of King Bhishmak. Naturally, Rukmini had a chance to talk with them, and in this way she obtained information about Krishna. She was informed about the 6 opulences of Krishna, and simply by hearing about him, she desired to surrender herself to his lotus feet and become his wife. Krishna had also heard about Rukmini. She was the reservoir of all transcendental qualities, intelligence, auspicious physical features, liberal mindedness, exquisite beauty and righteous behavior. Krishna therefore decided that she was fit to be his wife.
All of the relatives of King Bhishmaka decided that Rukmini should be given in marriage to Krishna, but her elder brother, Sorry. But elder brother Rukmi, despite the desire of the others, arranged for her marriage with Shishupal, a determined enemy of Krishna. When the black-eyed, beautiful Rukmini heard the settlement, she immediately became very morose. However, being a king's daughter, she understood political diplomacy and decided that there was no use in simply being morose. Some steps should be taken immediately. After some deliberation, she decided to send a message to Krishna, and so that she might not be deceived, she selected a qualified brahmana as her messenger. Such a qualified brahmana is always truthful and is a devotee of Vishnu. Without delay, she sent the brahmana to Dwaraka.
Reaching the gate of Dwaraka, the Brahmana informed the doorkeeper of his arrival, and the doorkeeper led him to the place where Krishna was sitting on a golden throne. Since the Brahmana had the opportunity to be Rukmini's messenger, he was fortunate enough to see the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, the original cause of all causes. A Brahmana is the spiritual teacher of all the social divisions. Lord Sri Krishna, in order to teach everyone the Vedic etiquette of how to respect a Brahmana, immediately got up and offered him his throne. When the Brahmana was seated on the golden throne, Lord Sri Krishna began to worship him exactly as the demigods worship Krishna. In this way, he taught everyone that worshipping his devotee is more valuable than worshipping him. In due time, the Brahmana took his bath, accepted his meals, and lay down to rest on a bedstead completely bedecked with soft silk. As he was resting, Lord Sri Krishna silently approached and with great respect put the Brahmana's legs on his lap and began to massage them. In this way, Krishna appeared before the Brahmana and said, "My dear Brahmana, I hope that you are executing the religious principles without difficulty and that your mind is always peaceful." Different classes of people in the social system are engaged in various professions, and when one inquires as to the well-being of a particular person, he should do so on the basis of that person's occupation. Therefore, when one inquires as to the welfare of a Brahmana, the question should be worded according to the condition of life so as not to disturb him. A peaceful mind is the basis for becoming truthful, clean, equipoised, self-controlled, and tolerant. Thus, by attaining knowledge and knowing its practical application in life, one becomes convinced about the absolute truth. The Brahmana knew Krishna to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and still he accepted the respectful service of the Lord on the grounds of Vedic social convention. Lord Sri Krishna was playing just like a human being. Because he belonged to the Kshatriya division of the social system and was a young boy, it was his duty to show respect to such a Brahmana.
Lord Krishna continued, "O best of all the Brahmanas, you should always remain satisfied. For if a Brahmana is always self-satisfied, he will not deviate from his prescribed duties, and simply by sticking to one's prescribed duties, everyone, especially a Brahmin, can attain the highest perfection of all desires. Even if a person is as opulent as the king of heaven, Indra, if he is not satisfied, he inevitably has to migrate from one planet to another. Such a person can never be happy under any circumstances, but If one's mind is satisfied, even if he is bereft of all possessions, he can be happy living anywhere.
This instruction by Krishna to the Brahmana is very significant. The purport is that a true Brahmana should not be disturbed in any situation. In this modern age, Kali Yuga, the so-called Brahmana have accepted abnormal position of Shudra or less still want to pass as a qualified Brahmana. Actually, a qualified Brahmana always stick to his own duties and never accept those of Shudra or one less than Shudra. It is advised in authority scripture that Brahmana may under awakened circumstance accept the profession of Kshatriya or even Vaishya, but never he to accept the position of Shudra. Lord Krishna declared that a Brahmana will never be disturbed by any adverse condition if he surplusly sticks to his religion principle. In conclusion, Lord Krishna said, I offer my respectful obeisances to the Brahmanas and Vaishnavas, for the Brahmanas are always self-satisfied and the Vaishnavas are always engaged in actual welfare activities of a human society. They are the best friend of the people in general. They are free from false egos and are always in peaceful condition of mind.
Lord Sri Krishna then decided to know about the rulers, Kshatriyas, in the Brahmanas kingdom. So he inquired whether the citizens of the kingdom were all happy. A king's qualification is judged by the temperament of the people in the kingdom. If they are happy in all respects, it is to be understood that the king is honest and is executing his duties rightly. Krishna said that the king in whose kingdom the citizens are happy is very dear to him. Of course, Krishna could understand that the Brahmana had come with a confidential message. Therefore, he said, if you have no objection, I give you liberty to speak about your mission.
Thus, being very much satisfied by these transcendental pastimes with the Lord, the Brahmana narrated the whole story of his mission in coming to see Krishna. He got out of the letter Rukmini had written to Krishna and said, These are the words of the princess Rukmini. My dear Krishna, O infallible and the most beautiful one, any human being who happens to hear about your transcendental form and pastimes immediately absorbs through his ears your name, fame, and pastimes immediately absorbs through fame and qualities. Thus, all his material pangs subside, and he fixes your form in his heart. Through such transcendental love for you, he always sees you within himself, and by this process, all his desires are fulfilled. Similarly, I have heard of your transcendental qualities. I may be shamelessly in expressing myself directly, but you have captivated me and taken my heart. You may doubt my steadiness of the character, since how could an unmarried young girl like me approach you without any shame? But my dear Mukunda, you are the supreme lion among human beings, the supreme person among persons. Any girl though not yet having left her home, or even any woman of the highest chastity, would desire to marry you, being captivated by your unprecedented character, knowledge, opulence, and position.
I know that you are the husband of the goddess of fortune and are very kind towards your devotees. Therefore, I have decided to become your eternal maidservant. My dear Lord, I dedicate my life and soul unto your lotus feet. I have selected your lordship as my husband, and I therefore request you to accept me as your wife. You are the supreme powerful, O lotus-eyed one. Now I belong to you. If that which is enjoyable for the lion to eat is taken away by the jackal, it will be a ludicrous affair. Therefore, I request you to immediately take care of me before I am taken away by Shishupal and other princes like him. My dear Lord, in my previous life, I may have done public welfare work like digging wells and planting trees, or pious activities such as performing ritualistic ceremonies and sacrifices and serving superiors like the spiritual master, Brahmanas and Vaishnavas. By these activities, perhaps, I have pleased the Supreme Personality of Godhead Narayan. If this be so, then I wish that you, Lord Krishna, the brother of Lord Balaram, please come here and catch hold of my hand so that I shall not be touched by Shishupal and his company.
Rukmini, married with the Shishupal, was already settled. Therefore, she suggests that Krishna kidnap her, so that this might change it. This sort of marriage, in which the girl is kidnapped with force, is known as Rakshasa, and is practiced among Kshatriyas, or men with administrative martial spirit, because her marriage was already arranged to take place the next day. Rukmini suggests that Krishna come there incognito to kidnap her and then fight with Shishupala and his allies like the king of Magadha. Knowing that no one could conquer Krishna, who would certainly emerge victorious, she addressed him as Ajita, the incomparable Lord.
Rukmini told Krishna not to be concerned that the fighting would take place within the palace and that many of her family members, including other women, might thus be wounded or even killed. As the king of a country thinks of diplomatic ways to achieve his object, Rukmini, being the daughter of a king, was diplomatic in suggesting how this unnecessary and undesirable killing could be avoided. She explained that it was the custom of her family to visit the temple of goddess Durga, their family deity, before a marriage. The Kshatriya kings were mostly staunch Vaishnavas worshipping Lord Vishnu in either the Radha Krishna or Lakshmi Narayan form. Still, for their material welfare, they used to worship goddess Durga. They never made the mistake, however, of accepting the demigods as the supreme lord on the level of Vishnu Tattva, as do some less intelligent men. To avoid the unnecessary killing of her relatives, Rukmini suggested that it would be easiest for him to kidnap her while she was either going from the palace to the temple or else returning home.
She also explained Krishna why she was anxious to marry him, even though her marriage was to take place with Shishupal, who was also qualified, being the son of a great king. Rukmini said that she did not think anyone was greater than Krishna, not even Lord Shiva, who is known as Mahadev, the greatest of all demigods. Lord Shiva also seek the pleasure of Lord Krishna in order to be delivered from his entanglement in the quality of ignorance within the material world. Although Lord Shiva is the greatest of all great souls, Mahatmas, he keeps on his head the purifying water of the Ganges, which emanates from a hole in this material universe made by the toe of Lord Vishnu. Lord Shiva is in charge of the material quality of ignorance, and to keep himself in a transcendental position, he always meditates on Lord Vishnu or Krishna and always tries to purify himself with the water of the Ganges. Therefore, Rukmini knew very well that obtaining the favor of Krishna was not easy, since even Lord Shiva must purify himself for the purpose. Surely it would be difficult for Rukmini, who was only the daughter of a Kshatriya king. Thus she desired to dedicate her life to observing severe austerities and penances such as fasting and going without bodily comforts. If it were not possible in this lifetime to gain Krishna's favor by these activities, she was prepared to die from such austerities and to undergo similar difficulties lifetime after lifetime. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is said that pure devotees of the Lord execute devotional service with great determination. Such determination, as exhibited by Rukmini Devi, is the only price for purchasing Krishna's favor. One should be strongly determined in Krishna consciousness, and that is the way to ultimate success.
After relaying Rukmini Devi's statement to Krishna, the Brahmana said, "My dear Krishna, chief of the Yadu dynasty, I have brought this confidential message for you from Rukmini. Now it is placed before you for your consideration. After due deliberation, you may act as you please. But if you want to do something, you must do it immediately, for there is not much time left for action." Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 52nd chapter of Krishna, Krishna the Ranchor. Hari Bol.
If we have super long paragraphs, just judge yourself the half of it.
Chapter 53, Krishna kidnaps Rukmini. After hearing Rukmini's statement, Lord Krishna was very much pleased. He immediately shook hands with the Brahmana and said, "My dear Brahmana, I'm very glad to hear that Rukmini is eager to marry me, since I'm also eager to get her hand. My mind is always absorbed in thoughts of the daughter of Bhishmaka, and sometimes I cannot sleep at night because I am thinking of her. I can understand that the marriage of Rukmini with Shishupal has been arranged by her elder brother in a spirit of animosity toward me. So I am determined to give a good lesson to all of those princes. Just as one extracts and uses fire after manipulating ordinary wood, after dealing with these demoniac princes, I shall bring forth Rukmini like fire from their midst."
Krishna, upon being informed of the specific date of Rukmini's marriage, was anxious to leave immediately. He asked his driver, Daruka, to harness the horses for his chariot and prepare to go to the kingdom of Vidarbha. After hearing this order, the driver brought Krishna's 4 special horses. The names and descriptions of these horses are mentioned in the Padma Purana. The first one, Saibya, was greenish. The second, Sugriva, was grayish, like ice. The third Mega Pushpa was the color of a new cloud, and the last Balahaka was of ashen color. When the horses were yoked and the chariot was ready to go, Krishna helped the Brahmana up and gave him a seat by his side. Immediately they started from Dwarka and within one night arrived at the province of Vidarbha. The kingdom of Dwarka is situated in the western part of India, and Vidarbha is situated in the northern part. They are separated by a distance of not less than 1,000 miles, but the horses were so fast that they reached their destination, a town called Kudina, within one night, or at most 12 hours.
King Bhishma was not enthusiastic about handing his daughter over to Shishupal, but he was obliged to accept the marriage settlement due to his attachment for his eldest son, who had negotiated it. As a matter of duty, the king was decorating the city for the marriage ceremony and acting in greatest earnestness to make it very successful. Water was sprinkled all over the streets, and the city was cleaned very nicely. Since India is situated in the tropical zone, the atmosphere is always dry. Dust always accumulates on the streets and the roads, so they must be sprinkled with water and latest once a day. In a big city like Calcutta, twice a day. The road of Unnandi were arranged with the colored flags and festoons, and the gates were constructed at a particular crossing. The whole city was decorated very nicely. The beauty of the city was enhanced by the inhabitants, both men and women, who were dressed in fresh, washed clothes and decorated with sandalwood plumes, pearl necklace and flowers, garlands, incense burns vary everywhere. The fragrance like the guru scented in the air.
Priests and brahmanas were sumptuously fed and, according to ritualistic ceremony, were given sufficient wealth and cows in charity. In this way, they were engaged in chanting Vedic hymns. The king's daughter Rukmini was exquisitely beautiful. She was very clean and had beautiful teeth. The auspicious sacred thread was tied on her wrist. She was given various types of jewelry to wear and long silken cloth to cover the upper and lower parts of her body. Learned priests gave her protection by chanting mantras from the Samaveda, Rigveda and Yajurveda. Then they chanted mantras from the Atharva Veda and offered oblations in the fire to pacify the influence of different stars.
King Bhishmaka was experienced in dealing with the Brahmanas and priests when such ceremonies were held. He specifically honored the Brahmanas by giving them large quantities of gold and silver, grains mixed with molasses, and cows decorated with cloth and ornaments. Dhammaghosha, Shishupal's father, executed all kinds of those ritualistic performances to invoke good fortune for his son. Shishupal's father was known as Dhammaghosha due to his superior ability to cut down unregulated citizens. Dhamma means curbing down and Ghosha means famous. So he was famous for controlling the citizens. Dhammaghosha thought that if Krishna came to disturb the marriage ceremony, he would certainly cut him down with his military power. Therefore, after performing the various auspicious ceremonies, Dhamagosha gathered his military divisions. He took many elephants garlanded with golden necklaces and many similarly decorated chariots and houses. It appeared that Dhamagosha, along with his son and other companions, was going to Kundina not exactly to get Shishupala's married, but mainly to fight.
When King Bhishmaka learned that Damaghosh and his party were arriving, he left the city to receive them. Outside the city gate were many gardens where guests were welcome to stay. In the Vedic system of marriage, the bride's father receives the large party of the bridegroom and accommodates them in a suitable place for 2 or 3 days until the marriage ceremony is performed. The party led by Dhamagosha contained thousands of men, among whom the prominent kings and personalities were Jarasandha, Dantavakra, Viduratha and Pondrak. It was an open secret that Rukmini was meant to be married to Krishna, but that her elder brother Rukmi had arranged the marriage to Shishupal. There were also some whispering about a rumor that Rukmini had sent a messenger to Krishna. Therefore, the soldiers suspected that Krishna might cause a disturbance by attempting to kidnap Rukmini. Even though they were not without fear, they were all prepared to give Krishna a good fight to prevent the girl from being taken away. Sri Balaram received the news that Krishna had left for Kundina, accompanied only by a Brahmana, and that Shishupal was there with a large number of soldiers. Balaram suspected that they would attack Krishna, and thus, out of great affection for his brother, he took strong military divisions of chariots, infantry, horses, and elephants and went to the precincts of Kundina.
Meanwhile, inside the palace, Rukmini was expecting Krishna to arrive, but when neither he nor the Brahmana who told her message appeared, she was full of anxiety and began to think how unfortunate she was. There is only one night between today and my marriage day, and still neither the Brahmana nor Shyamasundar has returned. I cannot uncertain any reason for this. Having little hope, she drew that perhaps Krishna had found reason to become dissatisfied and had rejected her fair proposal. As a result, the Brahmana might have become disappointed and not come back, although she was thinking of various causes for the delay. She accepted them both at any moment.
Rukmini further thought that demigods such as Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, and Goddess Durga might have been displeased. It is generally said that the demigods become angry when not properly worshipped. For instance, when Indra found that the inhabitants of Vrindavan were not worshipping him, Krishna having stopped the Indra Yagya, he became angry and wanted to chastise them. Thus, Rukmini thought that since she did not worship Lord Shiva or Lord Brahma very much, they might have become angry and tried to frustrate her plan. Similarly, she thought that Goddess Durga, the wife of Lord Shiva, might have taken the side of her husband. Lord Shiva is known as Rudra and his wife is known as Rudrani. Rudrani and Rudra refer to those who are accustomed to putting others in distress to cry forever. Rukmini was thinking of goddess Durga as Girija, the daughter of the Himalayan mountains. The Himalayan mountains are very cold and hard, and she thought of goddess Durga as hard-hearted and cold. In her anxiety to see Krishna, Rukmini, who was after all still a child, thought this way about the different demigods. The gopis worshipped goddess Katyayani to get Krishna as their husband. Similarly, Rukmini was thinking of the various types of demigods not for material benefit but in respect to Krishna. Praying to the demigods to achieve the favor of Krishna is not irregular, and Rukmini was fully absorbed in thoughts of Krishna.
Even though she pacified herself by thinking that the time for Govinda to arrive had not yet expired, Rukmini felt that she was hoping against hope. Not expressing her mind to anyone, she simply shed tears, unobserved by others. And when her tears became more forceful, she closed her eyes in helplessness. While Rukmini was in such deep thought, auspicious symptoms appeared in different parts of her body. Trembling began to occur in her left eyelid, arm, and thigh. When trembling occurs in these parts of the body, it is an auspicious sign, indicating that something lucrative can be expected.
Just then, Rukmini, full of anxiety, saw the Brahmana messenger. Krishna, being the super soul of all living beings, could understand Rukmini's anxiety. Therefore, he sent the Brahmana inside the palace to let her know that he had arrived. When Rukmini saw the Brahmana, she could understand the auspicious trembling of her body and immediately became elated. She smiled and inquired whether Krishna had already come. The Brahmana replied that the son of the Yadu dynasty, Sri Krishna, had arrived. He further encouraged her by saying that Krishna had promised to carry her away without fail. Rukmini was so elated by the Brahmana's message that she wanted to give him in charity everything she possessed. However, finding nothing suitable for presentation, she simply offered him her respectful obeisances. The significance of offering respectful obeisances to a superior is that the one offering obeisances is obliged to the respected person. In other words, Rukmini implied that she would remain ever grateful to the Brahmana. Anyone who gets the favor of the goddess of fortune, as did this Brahmana, is without a doubt always happy in material opulence.
When King Bhishmaka heard that Krishna and Balaram had come, he invited them to see the marriage ceremony of his daughter. Immediately he arranged to receive them, along with their soldiers, in a suitable garden house. As was the Vedic custom, the king offered Krishna and Balaram honey and fresh washed garments. He was hospitable not only to Krishna, Balaram, and kings such as Jarasandha, but also to many other kings and princes according to their personal strength, age, and material possessions. Out of curiosity and eagerness, the people of Kundina assembled before Krishna and Balaram to drink the nectar of their beauty. With tearful eyes, they offered Krishna and Balaram their silent respects. They were very much pleased, considering Lord Krishna the suitable match for Rukmini. They were so eager to unite Krishna and Rukmini that they prayed to the personality of Godhead. Our dear Lord, if we have performed any pious activities with which you are satisfied, kindly be merciful upon us and accept the hand of Rukmini. It appears that Rukmini was a very popular princess, and all the citizens, out of intense love for her, prayed for her best fortune. In the meantime, Rukmini, being very nicely dressed and protected by bodyguards, came out of the palace to visit the temple of Ambika, or Goddess Durga.
Deity worship in the temple has been extant since the beginning of the Vedic culture. There is a class of men described in the Bhagavad Gita as the Veda Vada Rata. They believe only in Vedic ritualistic ceremony, but not in temple worship. Such foolish people may here take note that although this marriage of Krishna and Rukmani took place more than 5,000 years ago, there were arrangements for temple worship. In Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says, Yanti Deva Virta Devan, the worshipper of the goddess and demigods attain the abode of the demigod. There were many people who worship the demigod and many who directly worship the Supreme Personality of God. The system of demigod worship was directed mainly to the Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, Lord Ganesha, the sun god, and the goddess Durga. Lord Shiva and goddess Durga were worshipped even by the royal families. Other minor demigods were worshipped by silly lower class people.
As for the Brahmana and Vaishnavas are concerned, they simply worship Lord Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the Bhagavad Gita, the worship of demigods is condemned but not forbidden. There it is clearly stated that less intelligent men worship the demigods for material benefit. On the other hand, even though Rukmini was the goddess of fortune, she went to the temple of goddess Durga because the family deity was worshipped there. In Srimad Bhagavatam, it is stated that as Rukmini proceeded toward the temple of goddess of Durga, within her heart she always thought of the lotus feet of Krishna. Therefore, when Rukmini went to the temple, it was not with the intention of an ordinary person who goes to beg for material benefit. Her only goal was Krishna.
As Rukmini proceeded towards the temple, she was silent and grave. Her mother and her girlfriends were by her side, and the wife of a Brahmana was in the center. Surrounding her were royal bodyguards. This custom of her would-be brides going to the temple of a demigod is still practiced in India. As the procession continued, various musical sounds were heard. Conches, drums such as the Parnavas and the bugles of different sizes such as the Suryas and the Bheris combined to make a sound which was not only auspicious but very sweet to hear. Thousands of the wives of respectable Brahmanas were present, all dressed very nicely with suitable ornaments. They presented Rukmini with flower garlands, sandalwood pulp, and a variety of colorful garments to assist her in worshipping Lord Shiva and Goddess Durga. Some of these ladies were very old and knew perfectly well how to chant prayers to Goddess Durga and Lord Shiva. So, followed by Rukmini and others, they laid these prayers before the deity.
Rukmini offered her prayers to the deity by saying, "My dear Goddess Durga, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you as well as to your children. Goddess Durga has 4 famous children, 2 daughters, the goddess of fortune Lakshmi and the goddess of learning Saraswati, and 2 sons, Lord Ganesha and Lord Kartikeya. They are all considered demigods and goddesses. Since Goddess Durga is always worshipped with her famous children, Rukmini specifically offered her respectful obeisances to the deity in that way. However, her prayers were special. Ordinary people pray to Goddess Durga for material wealth, fame, profit, strength, and so on. Rukmini, however, desired to have Krishna for her husband and therefore prayed that the deity be pleased with her and bless her with that benediction. Since she desired only Krishna, her worship of the demigod is not condemned. While Rukmini was praying, she presented a variety of items before the deity, chief of which were water, different kinds of flames, incense, garments, garlands, and various foods prepared with ghee, such as puris and kachoris.
She also offered fruits, sugar cane, betel, nuts, and spices. With great devotion, Rukmini offered them to the deity according to the regulate principles, directed by the all Brahmanas ladies after this ritualistic ceremony. The ladies offered the remnants of the food to Rukmini as prasadam, which she accepted with great respect. Then Rukmini offered her obedience to the ladies and to the goddess. Durga, after the business of deity worship was finished, Rukmini caught hold of the hand of one of her girlfriends in her hand, which was decorated with a jewelry ring, and left the temple in the company of the others.
All the princes and visitors who came to Gundina for the marriage had assembled outside the temple to see Rukmini. The princes were especially eager to see her because they all actually thought that they would have Rukmini as their wife. Struck with wonder upon seeing Rukmini, they thought she was especially manufactured by the Creator to bewilder all the great chivalrous princes. Her body was well constructed, the middle portion being thin. Her high hips were adorned with a jeweled locket. She had pink lips, and the beauty of her face was enhanced by her slightly scattered hair and by different kinds of earrings. The bodily luster and beauty of Rukmini appeared as if painted by an artist, perfectly presenting beauty following the descriptions of great poets. Rukmini's breasts are described as being somewhat high, indicating that she was just a youth, not more than 13 or 14 years old. Her beauty was specifically intended to attract the attention of Krishna. Although the princess gazed upon her beautiful features, she was not at all proud. Her eyes moved restlessly, and when she smiled very simply like an innocent girl, her teeth appeared just like jasmine buds. Expecting Krishna to take her away at any moment, she proceeded slowly toward her home. Her legs moved just like a full-grown swan, and her ankle bells tinkled mildly.
The chivalrous princesses assembled there were so overwhelmed by Rukmini's beauty that they became almost unconscious and fell from their horses and elephants. Full of lust, they hopelessly desired Rukmini's hand, comparing their own beauty to hers. Srimati Rukmini, however, was not interested in any of them. In her heart, she was simply expecting Krishna to come and carry her away. As she was adjusting the ornaments on the finger of her left hand, she happened to look upon the princess and suddenly saw that Krishna was present amongst them.
closed it. Although Rukmini had never before seen Krishna, she was always thinking of him. Thus, she had no difficulty recognizing him amongst the princely order. Krishna, unconcerned with the other princes, immediately took the opportunity to place Rukmini on his chariot, marked by a flag bearing an image of Garuda. He then proceeded slowly, without fear, taking Rukmini away exactly as a lion takes a deer from the midst of jackals. Meanwhile, Balaram appeared on the scene with the soldiers of the Yadu dynasty. Jarasandha, who had many times experienced defeat by Krishna, roared, "How is this? Krishna is taking Rukmini away from us without opposition? What is the use of our being chivalrous fighters with arrows? My dear princes, just look, we are losing our reputation. He is just like a jackal taking booty from a lion." This ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 53rd chapter of Krishna. Krishna kidnaps Rukmini.
So, my dear devotees, this concludes our Sunday weekly reading of Krishna book to Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada, we're very grateful that you will let us come and read to you every Sunday. And as we always do, let us offer our respectful obeisances to Srila Prabhupada and to each other. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Nityanamane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharane Nirvasesha Sunyavadi Paskacha Deshatarne. To each other, Panchakalpa Dhruvischa Kripa Sindhu Vyevacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. And may everyone continue to have a very healthy and blissful Kartik and happy Diwali. Hare Krishna. Jai Shri Ram. Ram's coming back to Ayodhya with Lakshman and Sita and Hanuman, and Jambavan came, right? And all the monkey soldiers. So the whole city of Ayodhya is lit up to receive Ram back from his 14 years in the Dandaka forest. We were told today that in Ayodhya they still follow this tradition, and it's yes, and even the most.
Hare Krishna. It is a great auspicious occasion which is happening in Ayodhya. Usually Muslims are against the Hindus, but this time the Muslims are very much enthusiastic and taking part in this today's function, which is Deepavali, where Lord Ram, Lakshman and Sita are welcomed after 14 years of exile by lighting the lamps, and they were very happy. And the whole atmosphere is very, very, very beautiful and very auspicious. Thank you. Millions of lamps were lighted today, and it made Lord Ram very happy and very pleased. Hare Krishna.